Welcome to the Coffee and Contemplation with Susan Dunlop podcast. I'm Susan Dunlop. In our upcoming episode, we'll be delving into the topic of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, C-PTSD, and its impact on workplace dynamics and mental health advocacy. My guest, Lindsay Morgia, founder of Morgia Research Services, is joining me from Boston, Massachusetts. Lindsay will bring her wealth of lived experience and professional experience in non-profit consulting and data analysis to shed light on this important subject. In May, I spotted a blog on Facebook titled Flying Under the Radar with C-PTSD. In the article, Lindsay wrote that she struggles with C-PTSD symptoms every single day due to the emotional abuse and neglect she experienced as a child. However, she managed to fly under the radar in her professional life. She has 2 master's degrees, over 15 years of experience as a data analyst for non-profits, and she runs her own business. How? Because her symptoms and coping mechanisms fall under the socially acceptable end of the spectrum. That, and what caught my attention next, led me to invite Lindsay onto the show. Lindsay shared a list of her 3 coping mechanisms. 1 is self-sufficiency, 2, perfectionism, and 3, an extremely high bullshit tolerance. They caught my attention because I also always had this feeling that I was not the same as other people in my workplace. From the time I began my first job as a receptionist at 18, I was on high alert. I would read the room. I did what I could to steer clear of the wolf-whistling warehouse boys I had to walk past every morning to enter the office block. Trust was an issue. Feeling unsafe. I felt less than others, ashamed of myself. I had no real sense of why, though. Did I belong? Where would I belong? Am I ever going to belong? Am I normal? Whilst owning a successful company since I moved to Queensland, I thought it was just me being me. I embraced entrepreneurship, facing my fears as the business grew and grew and grew far beyond what I first expected. It was fast-paced, adrenal pumping. I loved getting stuff done, making the good big stuff happen. So some of that was me, the real me. Some of it was something different that I hadn't put a name on yet. Fast forward 16 years from the time I opened the doors of that company to the day I handed over those front door keys with glee to the new owners. Finally, I was free to be me. Who was me? I was about to see. Since my exit to become the next iteration of me as a coach and facilitator, and because of social media, I've heard people talk about imposter syndrome more. I don't recall hearing it before. I never thought of that word applying to me, though. I knew there was something else going on for me. I tried to accept it was just me being me, as an employee or later as a leader. But I know while I use those words, tried to accept, deep down I always felt that was an exhausting challenge. But I kept those feelings to myself and just kept going. I had left my company, become a coach, and the coaching was showing me more about me than I expected. In 2019, I recall walking in the door of my doctor's and melting down in an avalanche of words, hurts, fears and tears. And as she handed me tissue, she said, "I'll get you in to see someone about strategies to deal with your C-PTSD." I remember it was a shock to hear those words, and she was applying those to me. Then, it wasn't very long before it became a relief. So it wasn't me. It was the trauma that had me operating with C-PTSD, humming beneath the surface. No one knew, or at least never said anything to me. But now I do know. It was my childhood trauma that had me humming with C-PTSD. It surprises me how well I operated in life and how far I went with business now that I look back and can put those things together. My facilitation work now is in empowering workplace leaders and teams, and I'm still researching how I can gently incorporate inclusiveness. How to let people with C-PTSD and other mental health or trauma-related conditions feel seen, not exposed, but know that I understand. Without judgment or bias, how will I bring the empowered language to them and help them to show up with more ease? The work is about making the shift from the victim mindset to the creator mindset, from focusing on problems to focusing on outcomes. It's not about victimization, though, but adopting the persona of victimhood, an ultimately relationship damaging way to operate if that's how we go about most of our days. I know for real, though, that we cannot ignore the overactive reactivity some of us continue to experience that originated as children, the fight, flight, freeze and fawn response. If we can let people know that we are conscious of that, we can come up with strategies as leaders, managers and team leaders to not make those people feel as if they don't belong or remain invisible or feel like they are a problem. Because if I didn't know, and that was a very long time that I didn't know that I had C-PTSD, I wonder how many other overachievers or high achievers in leadership are operating in the same way, flying under the radar, as Lindsay and I will discuss. That list of 3 coping mechanisms: self-sufficiency, perfectionism, and extremely high bullshit tolerance. What if it doesn't have to be that way? What about our teams? Do we know what's happening beneath the surface for them? Or are we letting them fly under the radar because it's more convenient for us to do so? My work already touches on this, but I would love to be able to go to that greater level to let every person feel seen and feel heard. It's a choice. Lindsay and I are preparing for the episode this week, and I'm very grateful that she said yes to coming onto the show and making me think deeply about it before we even talk about it. The podcast episode is broadcast through Spotify and your favourite streaming services. It's on my YouTube channel, and you'll see a release day post on my social media and on LinkedIn. If you've not yet subscribed, head to my website, susandunlop.com.au, and stay empowered with a weekly blog. The link to the episode may then just make its way to your inbox directly on the day of publication. Please enjoy your week and take care, and I look forward to you tuning in to hear this episode with Lindsay in coming weeks. Thank you. Bye for now.